Hi, I'm Molly, and in today's video I would like to kind of copycat mug the winner of UK versus the World Season 3, Gawdland. Here's some reference photos. She's gorgeous, of course. I'm half Thai, so it felt really cool to see a Thai girl be a Ru girl. So, if you're interested on how this look went, keep on watching. Alright, so what I'm doing here is wiping off the excess skincare of my brows with some alcohol and a paper towel. And then I'm going to go in with the About Face Shadow Fix eyeshadow primer and apply that all over to my lids and eyebrows. And then I'm going to be using the NYX Microbrow pencil in the shade Taupe. I actually end up doing something different later, but first I used Taupe to kind of sketch out the shape of the brow. Because this is more of a drag look, I already have kind of a clean base of brows, being blonde and barely noticeable, and I shave the tails off anyways. I can make the most draggy brows I can without actually gluing my brows down. So in Gawdland's eyebrow, she has a very straight but high up angular brow. So I'm drawing that straight up angle with the Taupe brow pencil to kind of get that sketch out. I will later, to add more contrast to my face, go in with a darker shade of liner. I start sketching out the bottom of the tail and then start going at an angle up and then go with the top parallel to that angle I drew from the bottom. I am breaking out so bad. I have acne on my eyebrows. With how many products I use to create this drag look, I end up covering it anyways, but it's kind of irritating to try to make my brows look even right now. And for carving my eyebrows out, I'm actually going to take this palette from Makeup Forever. It's like a Face Essentials palette, and I forgot how much I like this palette. And I'm going to carve my brows out. I end up regretting this when I start doing my eyeshadow, so you really don't need to do this. I end up using a flat brush that just carves my eyebrows out. I do end up regretting this, you'll see why, but I do start carving the top and the bottoms. And then using a flat top concealer brush to just buff those edges a little bit, just to make it a little nicer blend. But again, this ended up being kind of harmful to my eyeshadow, so. And before I fully go in with my eyes, I'm going to prime my face with the One Size Secure the Sweat primer. I am very oily, and today was a very, very warm day, so I was kind of actually sweating before I started doing my makeup, so I didn't want to sweat it all off. So this primer helps that. You have to really tap it in to make sure you get no pilling and warm it up between those fingertips. And for my eyeshadow, I'm actually using a bunch of eyeshadow palettes, but use what you got. I'm just using a lot of browns, and I'll end up using some sparklies and a bright white, which is a mix of all my palettes. But use what you got. You don't need to buy several over $40 palettes to get this look. Anyways, the main eyeshadow palette I will be using is the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes in the Neutrals palette. And I saw on TikTok that a girl that goes by the username @GeniusGirlAlert suggested that you use a mid-tone color all over the lid and then go in with your lights and your darks. And so I kind of wanted to try that today. But the problem is I didn't set my concealer. So where I put the mid-tone eyeshadow on the wet concealer ended up being darker and not very blended compared to where I put the eyeshadow on just plain primer. So that was my big mistake. It ends up not being too bad later, but it looks really bad right now. But you gotta trust the process. You just gotta trust the process. This eye look is going to take a lot of layering products to kind of make it precise and pretty before we get to the final product of the look in general. A lot of removing and a lot of adding. A lot of layers, like I said. So trust the process. The dark eyeshadow that looks unblended is because of the concealer. And here I go trying to fix it with a white light shade. And it's not quite going the way I would like it to, but I'm going to apply this white shade to my brow bone and try to lighten it back up because of that dark concealer line that we accidentally created. I'm going to blame my new medication that I am trying. This is like day 5 of trying this medicine, and I messed up a lot. So getting used to medicine is very difficult, but take care of your mental health and make sure you have a strong support system while going through it. I'm going to be blending that light shade into the mid-tone brown again. I do decide that this light shade isn't light enough, so I go in first being the keyword, with the white shade from the Blend Bunny and Rotten palette. But if you have even a light, bright white, I would just use what you got. And then I'm going to go in with this like slightly darker shade to see if it matches that accidental dark crease concealer powder mix match or whatever. And I'm just gonna buff that right into the crease and onto the outer third of my eyelid and work it into that mid-tone that I put all over the lid. And then I decide, hey, that brown shade is not deep enough, so I go in over that shade and try to deepen the brown a little bit more. Because this is a drag-based look, I needed it to be a little bit more dramatic in color, and I do believe this dark brown gets the job done. So it's kind of the same steps, just over the previous shade. Next, I'm going in with my Wet n Wild liquid eyeliner, the Megaliner one, and I'm going to be drawing the eyeliner. It's more of the shape I'm sketching out for the future cut crease that I'm about to do. It's just my typical eyeliner, drawing a big ass triangle on my eyelid. I'm going to cover up the inner part of the eyeliner with some paint, basically, so you do not need to draw the inner corner. I like, as I was doing this, I was like, well, why did I do that? Just draw the big outside corner and then you'll connect everything later. I do have a gripe with this eyeliner a little bit. I think it looks fine on video, but when I took photos, I feel like the eyeliner didn't quite look as dark as I would have liked it to look. But I also don't like the iPhone's post-editing thing it does. I don't know if anyone else also feels that way, but I do think in the video it looks fine. But also in real life, I feel like it just wasn't quite dark enough for what I wanted. So if you have like a ride or die eyeliner that you love, that's not like $20 for an eyeliner. I go through a lot of eyeliner. I would love your suggestions. I like brush tip typically. I like these like pot liquid liners too. I don't like the pins. The pins leak a little too much, and I can control how much product is on the brush a lot easier when it's a dip pot like this. So yeah, if you have any suggestions, please let me know. And then I'm taking some micellar water and some pointed Q-tips and cleaning up my wing. As I was like noticing, I was like, I'm drawing the wing a little too much like my typical wing instead of a straight up, damn near just straight up eyeliner from my eyeball. So when I took a look at Gawdland's eyeliner, I was like, oh, I'm not even in the right shape. So I'm just using the micellar water to clean up. And I will end up going over the eyeliner and making it a little thicker and more straight up angled, as opposed to my closer to being straight out angle. And here is just me super cutting real quick that I am making my eyeliner much thicker. Because I was tired of that white shade not looking light enough, I'm taking the Made by Mitchell color case, which is basically a paint palette, and taking the warmer white shade and putting that along my brow bone, right over any powders and such, because I need it to be a bright white. With the paint palette, I was mixing a flat shader brush. This one I think is actually a lipstick brush, and I am getting some color from the case and then putting it on the paint palette and then mixing it into my brush, so my brush has a lot of product on it, so it glides much better. And with the smaller dense buffer brush, I'm just going to buff the edges of that white paint into my eyeshadows so it looks blended and not like I just put a cream over a powder. Next, I'm gonna use the same brush and carve out my crease. I like to look down to see where my eyelid would be hidden when I tilt my head down, and then draw right above it so you can see the sparkly even when I look down, like I said. And I'm going to put that at about halfway, almost like a third maybe even of the way, but it's pretty much halfway across my eyelid. And like I said, I was going to end up covering that liquid liner and then recover it later. So silly of me, but this helps make the sparkly shadow that we're about to put over it much more crisp. I'm also going to bring that a little bit into my inner corner because based on Gawdland's previous eye looks, she likes to extend her inner corner towards the center of the face. So I am also doing that. I'm also cleaning up any edges with some micellar water and a Q-tip. Next, I'm going to take the Made by Mitchell color case, the Electrics one, and use these limey green shades to color correct. My pimples are typically red with a little bit of purple in them, so the green with a yellow base helps neutralize that. And then I'm going to go in with my Makeup Forever palette and cover up the green. Of course, we're going in with foundation, so this is the Wet n Wild Photofocus foundation, the Dewy one, and I'm going to load a lot on my face because it's a full coverage look. When you're doing drag, typically you want a full coverage base because everything else is going to be dramatic. So I put a bunch on my face, and then I put some on my hand and load my brush up with some foundation, and that is called priming your brush according to a few makeup artists on TikTok. But I'm going to do tap it motions all over my face to blend that foundation in, and then clean up with the closer parts to my eye with the foundation, and then buff with a tinier brush. And then with my Makeup Forever palette, I'm going to take the lighter shade and highlight my under eyes and the center of my face generally, taking my time to blend and buff specifically in specific spots. My forehead, my nose, my cupid's bow, and my chin. And then for contour, I'm going to go in with the Makeup Forever face palette, and it's a good contour shade for me. Gawdland does like a rounded contour nose, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to draw a line from the pocket of my eyeball straight down to my nose, round out my nose, and right back around to the other eyeball. And then I'm going to put a little line right above my nose tip to make a cute little button nose. And then on a flat concealer brush, I'm going to take the lighter shade of that palette and just put the highlight in the center of my face again, and then blend in the contour shade. And then I'm going to use the same contour shade for my cheeks and my forehead and my jawline. Just blending, make sure it's blended and flawless. I probably should have used a postcard under my contour to create a straight line. Hindsight is 2020 though. So, and for blush, I did forget to show it, but it is the pinky lighter blush, but not the highlighter one, in my Makeup Forever palette, and just put that blush in more of an angular cheekbone fashion. And then with the RCMA No Color Powder and a big powder puff, I'm going to load that powder onto my powder puff and put that all over my face. A lot of powder. I know I used a dewy foundation. It seems counterproductive to use a super mattifying powder, but it helps everything lock in place much better with no flashback. Just powder your face. And I'm making sure to press that powder into the skin so it doesn't just sit on top of my skin. And after kind of looking at my face and powdering my face, I realized that I would prefer my brows to be actually a little darker. Gawdland's brows are pretty dark, so I am going over it with the Made by Mitchell color case and the like dark shade there. And I'm actually using a paintbrush that I got from the craft store and using that to draw my eyebrows. So I'm just kind of going over what I drew earlier. And then I'm going to set my contour, my cream contour, with the Sephora contour powder in the first shade, Fair to Light, just to deepen my contour. I'm also going to draw my nose contour on with the same contour powder. It just kind of makes everything stand out a little bit more than just using creams. It's like layering products just to make sure everything is going to stay on my face. And for even more flawless skin look, I'm going to take the Maybelline Fit Me powder, the matte and poreless one, to make me even more matte, and press that right where I put the highlighter shades earlier with the creams. And then going back in with my Makeup by Mario palette, I'm going to take a mix of all these dark browns together and draw a straight line out from my bottom eyelid. Based on my reference photo, that is a typical eye look for Gawdland, and that's going to go all the way out and then on the lower lash line. Pretty easy, and then you'll blend it out as well, so it's not super just a line, but also a smoky line. And then I'm going to take my liquid eyeliner and create the inner corner wing and make sure I connect it to the lid wing. Also, I used some face paint to kind of sharpen up the edges and also put it under that inner corner wing I made. And then with the white face paint, I'm also going to just draw a white line right under the winged eyeliner to make it dramatic. I did a lot of layering of face paint and a lot of going back in with the liquid liner. And then I'm going to take the Essence pencil liner and tighten my eyes and line my waterline. First, dry your waterline off with a Q-tip if you want it to last a little bit longer. Before I found the right shimmer glitter, I went through a couple of options. So this one was the Ellis and Blue Bunny palette, and I'm going to take that shade at the bottom that's metallic and glittery and see if that's the color, but it ended up not being the color. I found this one to be a little too icy, and I didn't like how I was applying it with my finger. I couldn't be as precise, so I got a flat eyeshadow brush to see if I could put that right over the white face paint. But I did find that in person, it just felt a little too icy for me. I remember that I like the metallic glitters in my Natasha Denona palette. There's like a good taupey shade in that palette that I decided to go over the white with. I accidentally first put the copper in, and I did not like that one. But this taupey shadow is exactly what I was looking for this eye look. Mascara on the tops and bottoms of my lashes. You know, my tried and true mascara. And then for lashes, I'm going in with the Ioni lashes. These ones are from like a circus collection. I'll put the number in the description. When I really want my lashes to stay on, I line my lash line with glue like it was liquid liner, and they stick a lot longer. On the downside, the lash glue stays in my lashes for a little bit longer, but they will not lift in the inner corners or outer corners as much as they would if I just put the lash glue directly on the lashes. But I find that this method works amazing for me. And for lips, I'm taking the MAC lip liner in Cork. I'm going to overdraw my lips and shape them just like Gawdland's, and kind of create a thick line before I go in with the Revlon lipstick in the shade Rum Raisin. I wanted a rosy shade that was kind of nudie but not completely nudie, so I went with this lipstick and I thought it turned out beautifully. It's a little bit satiny, so it's not super glossy, but it's not matte, and it's beautiful. And this is the completed look. If I had a long black sleek wig, I would have worn it, but I do not have one of those, so my natural hair is just going to be it. But this is my take on Gawdland's mug. I hope it looks good. I feel good. I felt so pretty. If you like it, if you think it's a pretty good mug on me, let me know. Like, is it her mug? Is it not? Is it just pretty? Is it pretty and her mug? Let me know in the comments, please. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe. I know you probably hear this a lot, but it does help every creator out, even the small ones. If you're interested in my short form content or my photos, I post on Instagram and TikTok pretty regularly, so make sure to follow that at Molly Noodles. And I will see you in the next video. Congrats, Gawdland. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.